All right. My name is Jake Holdaway, and I invited Ben Abbott to be here, Professor Ben Abbott from BYU, as I wanted to make a public statement in regards to the Lake Authority. I think the timing is really well, being that they're putting their plan and open to public comment. Over the last 3 years, or year and a half, I've been really concerned about the various moving parts on the lake. And I wanted to approach the Lake Authority board members as they convene and start to understand their role and give some history and context as to the position that me and my family in Walkara has taken as it's entered into a litigation or a litigious path over the past month and a half. To give context as to my feelings, I wanted to give some history as to what's happened. Obviously, you guys are now taking over from the Lake Commission. The inspired reasoning to form the Lake Commission was because obviously we all agree that the lake has had a problem. The formation of the commission was just a loose organization of cities and counties with really no authority or budget to be able to approve the lake. It's been around for many years, and engaging with it, I love that it existed. However, with its forming, there was no budget, and so getting a budget was really key. However, there's been some issues with the way in which it's been administered or organized, and I just want to clear the air. I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen is that, and I don't know why, but for whatever given reason, when the bill was run back in 2018, the bill sponsors or the legislature, instead of going towards the Lake Commission, ended up just running a bill at the legislature to basically privatize the lake. And one
Now,
of the
Jake, you're talking about HB 272, that created the pathway to give away part of the lake for restoration. Yeah, okay.
And one of the reasons for that was we already had a governing body, a lake commission, to come in and address that. And yet, if you look at Mayor Brad Foster, others on the commission, they had no idea that that pathway was being made or that those decisions were being made. And yet Eric Ellis of the Lake Commission drafted a letter and said, we're in full support of that. And just the mixed messaging that happened when that occurred, whether that was, some people thought that it should, and he had a few members of the Lake Commission. In my experience, the vast majority had no idea that that letter was created or that it started that process.
I've also asked former commission members, did you support this? And I haven't heard from anyone that they were even aware that this letter on behalf of the commission was signed and sent into the legislature.
The second issue, and coming from a public procurement background, is once that bill passed, it then authorized the state to do an RFP or a request for proposal, meaning they were going to put in 20,000 acres out for disposal, which 20,000 acres in Utah County would have billions of dollars of value.
Yeah.
And so they went and did an RFP, and when they issued that RFP, and they did it in a November timeframe when very few vendors participated. In fact, if you were to build the amount of houses, 500,000 in population, you would think some of the largest contractors in Perry Homes, Ivory Homes, Kennecott, Larry H. Miller, some of them would come in and respond to get 20,000 acres at no cost. But they didn't. And in talking with state employees about that process, it raised some massive red flags that there was only one company, and even when the RFP was done, that they moved forward with just one company. And also that, again, the Lake Commission, being that they're very busy and they're on city councils and they're on the county commission, had no idea that not only that happened, but that the executive director of the Lake Commission was then facilitating all of the meetings and LRS meeting with various stakeholders and cities to get it off the ground. And I don't like that no one knows like why that happened or who guided that. When LRS came to meet with us, they wanted to come in and do some improvements and offering us financial improvements of 1 point, a large sum of money towards my father. And when that happened, again, Eric facilitating the meeting, it was like, why are we selling these wetlands? Shouldn't we? The whole basis of Walkara Way was for donation, was for public access, and was not for development. And again, very few people in the commission understood that all those balls were rolling.
So, just for clarification, what I've heard Eric say and others say about him is, oh, he couldn't actually take a position, right, on any of these projects. He couldn't be for it. He couldn't be against it, since the commission was just like a clearinghouse, a facilitator. What do you say to that?
Well, you're obviously facilitating meetings, so that shows that you're for. And if those meetings are happening, why are they not on an official schedule? Why aren't those agendas made
Right.
public? Why aren't those conversations of where those roads are going? And why doesn't anyone on the Lake Commission know about it?
So that's a great point. For other projects that were going through the commission, like the chemical treatments in some of the marinas to reduce algae, they were getting reports back of, okay, here's how much money we put into it, here's the staff time, here's why we're doing that. But that wasn't going on, you're saying, for the LRS meetings and facilitation.
And if you're talking about one of these things, fine, but you're talking about a string of coincidences that all go one way and that nobody knows about it. And it wasn't until kind of the bombshell drop of the Vineyard letter of the loan, getting the city involved. For those that don't know that letter, it was made public by the EPA that the Vineyard City was becoming a loan guarantor of the LRS proposal. And for those that are new on the Lake Authority Board, that means LRS would not be in the city, and the lake would not be within Vineyard City's jurisdiction. So again, think about how odd that a tiny, small little city like Vineyard that I live in would be promising or committing, conditionally promising and be coming on a bank application for a massive $600-700 million loan. And again, nobody of the Lake Commission understanding Vineyard's role or financial commitment, or the largest project on the lake isn't being discussed in a public manner with those that have authority over Eric. I've worked for the National League of Cities and the National Government Association. When that dropped, that's when I engaged all of you 18 months ago and said, I can't move forward. I have to, even though I'm a private citizen and private property, and had led the effort to bring forth Walkara Way to try to bring private landowners in, I have to engage in a public way, and that wasn't happening. And so I've since stopped and haven't participated in any Walkara Way meetings. However, Walkara Way meetings have moved forward without us, and I didn't know about those. And again, as I've reached out month after month, I've engaged various new members, not only of those of the Lake Commission, but those new members that are taking over of the Lake Authority. And I've said, Walkara Way is moving forward, and they have no idea. They do not know anything. And the most scary part is we're now forming a new government entity, a lake authority. And I've watched those meetings intently. And in the first meeting, they come together briefly and they quickly select a chair. Well, we don't have articles of organization yet. When you form a new government entity, articles of organization would be established to define what is the chair, what are the members, what roles would they play, what roles. And that meeting was very brief, again, ending with Julie Fulmer being selected as the head of the organization. And again, all of our Lake Authority members do not know that she has loan documents that we have fought for at State Grandma to get access to, and currently has not turned over those documents to anybody. And I've tried to find out why the Lake Authority board members don't know or don't, and maybe they're just busy. And so that's a really red flag.
Well,
And
and one of the thing, I don't have the same experience in government, but the fact that, you have the commission that's been doing this for a long time, then the authorities created on top of that, but there's kind of this lame duck period, where the commission is still in charge. So the Utah Lake Authority Board, I don't blame any of them. They're coming in, it's a new organization, they aren't yet in control. And so that it's kind of like a vacuum of accountability and authority where, okay, it doesn't seem like it's important.
completely agree. But even after setting up who is the chair, they say, we're going to create the articles of organization. Great. Who's that going to be?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the actual board that is being put in place? Wouldn't they openly talk about how that is? What is the vote? I mean,
Yeah.
these are some big public meetings that should be taking place, and a discussion
And
on.
I was there at that first meeting, and not only was it extremely quick, but who voted for whom in that for the chair wasn't even made public. And it, to my knowledge, it still hasn't to this day.
Right. And so just think about it as a foundational document like the Constitution of an organization being founded. That is going to be the constitution for this organization as to how it would go. Following that, very briefly, they announced we're going to hire a consultant. Great. To do a master plan. We don't, our body doesn't even know each other. They have never gone through formal training. They still don't even know what their role is and what's Julie's role. And so we've put together the basis of this master or general plan. And in that general plan, again, it's focusing in on, lo and behold, economic development on the lake, similar to LRS. And you would ask, in many Lake Authority board members right now, they would go, what are the values? We don't even have the articles of organization and established of how we operate. And in many cases, they do not know that they are Eric's boss, and that they wag the tail as to what's going on. And so now you have a general, you have a hired consultant that went and just dreamed this up. Why him? We don't do this in America. That's not how general plans, and not only that, but we've gone so far to we're now asking the general public as to what that is. And again, our board, our Lake Authority board, similar to the Lake Commission, don't really understand the magnitude as to what they're doing. And so I just wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that they aren't aware of what is being done. The fact that some of them weren't even aware of the environmental consultant getting hired, and then the power imbalance where you have Eric, who was in charge of, he was the executive director of the commission. He's carrying over, so he kind of knows how things are operating. And then the people that are supposed to oversee his work and guide his work don't yet know the ropes. And so that creates a real, I supervise employees, and that's a nightmare situation.
Right. And yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. And so many long-term decisions are being made quickly before these positions are even established, put in to be able to understand they're being cemented in for long term. And so as the head of the Walkara Way Compromise, would you, and for those that are listening to this, and being a private landowner and trying to trust and make public and work together to find a compromise, I ask you, would you put your land in over to an entity like this and trust it that the conservation would be established despite all of these moves for the development on the lake? And I would say that you wouldn't, that you would wait. And in waiting, I know it's caused some problems. Many of you have said litigation has started, and it has. I've been told that we need to lawyer up and that we need
Mm.
to protect our lands, and that maybe our right, despite paying our taxes on this property for 130 years, and also for the lawsuit that we have won already from 1950 to 2001, the state has already come into the Holdaway property and settling in 2001 and in court, recognizing the Holdaways as the owners of that property. And
So
so,
Jake, could you walk us through, because I think many people aren't familiar with the current, I mean, how does this relate to the Eric Ellis, the Utah Lake Authority, the Utah Lake Commission? What's going on? We understand Walkara was paused, until things were clear, and that meetings continued without you and your family, which again seems crazy. But what's going on now with this new litigation?
yeah, so when we paused for a variety of reasons. One of the first ones was the litigious way in which LRS went after you in a lawsuit. One of the scariest things that happens is when you engage a lake commission or the authority now, all voices fundamentally have to be at the table. And when we found out about that, I reached out to Eric and said, I do not agree with quieting a scientist. Having known all of the meetings that he was coordinating, even though the Lake Commission might not have known about that,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you have soft power to make sure that the scientific community has a place within our lake. The other problem I had was that if we were fundamentally changing the wetlands and lake bed had value and that they could be commercialized. And
Yeah.
the state had deemed that wetlands should not be commercialized, and they'd fought that in court. And that's established law forever. And that's ultimately why it's been ruled unconstitutional at this
Right.
point. And so I actually got it right before the judge did. And I was like, I don't really want to move forward with this. I sat down and I met with Eric and others, Jim Price in his office, and I said, I don't feel comfortable with this. Since your lawsuit, many listening into this recording might not know that LRS has moved forward with now suing the state in forestry, fire, and state lands.
Yeah.
And again, why would I engage? Am I going to get sued as a private landowner? And the other thing that's been really bothersome is, and I want the Lake Authority members to know this, are you okay with lawsuits? Are you okay?
Mhm.
Is Eric still conducting meetings with LRS? Have you authorized him to do that? Where does this lake stand with LRS? But also, where does the Lake Authority stand with um, uh, freedom of speech of scientists?
Mhm.
That is such a chilling effect. And it also has an effect of some people don't exist or can't be a part of this process. And so
I mean, that's what really resonates with me, right? We have an opportunity now as a community to get the Utah Lake Authority off to a fresh start with transparency, with robust conversation, with respect of constitutional rights, and have it be collaborative. And my worry is, I mean, you and your family as one of the most important stakeholders here, you've been a leader in conserving lake habitat. If you're being edged out for who knows what reasons, and the Utah Lake Authority board is not apprised, they're not aware of what's going on. I mean, I want the authority to succeed, but to do that, we've got to have disclosure of who is on what side of these issues and what is being done. That's why the statute was written so clearly about abiding by these public meetings rules and having great notices and things. That doesn't, to me, seem like what's happened so far.
well, and in meeting with Eric and having the relationship deteriorate to that level and saying, hey, litigation does need to start to have our property, our claim to our property recognized. I don't know how odd it is when you pay taxes for 130 years to be told and win a lawsuit against the state to have a state employee tell you you don't own it. You go, we've already won this.
Yeah.
Now, the federal government might have an opinion, but they're not the federal government on that.
Right.
And so I let it kind of simmer, and then I've engaged privately a few new Lake Authority board members. And I'm saying, are you on board with the litigation that's between my family? Are you on board with the litigation between Ben Abbott? Where are you with the litigation between the state? And there's been quietness, like they don't even know that the Holdaways have been removed from the
Right.
project. They're getting updates like, oh, it's moving forward. And that's just not true. And so I wanted to make a public statement, not only to the Lake Authority board members, but also to the citizens. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, and I want to make sure people understand why we're in a litigation period and literally me stopping Walkara from moving forward. And it's because everyone needs to be involved in the lake. A public process has to be established. I believe in what Brady Brammer did in terms of putting authority into it. But with much authority comes a big role that you Lake Authority board members have, and the oversight that you need to have for it to be successful, because you represent me, you represent Ben, you represent the state, you represent a variety of voices. And as we get excluded, right, Ben gets silenced, or I do, there's got to be a governing board that we can petition. And until we know who that board is that we can petition, we have no place to solve our problem. And that's what I wanted to say was, don't worry about Walkara Way. It's going to be delayed, and we can throw this up into court for many, many years. And I want to apologize. I know that we made very large promises in terms of getting 7.5 million, and it's sitting in a bank account, and they're like, hey, what are we going to do to move forward? And I wish we could fix the mosquito problem. I wish we could fix the fire problem. I wish we could clean up the lake. And I'm going to be the one that's saying we should move faster. But to be honest with you, until we get the foundational government practices are in place, and I think the Lake Authority is going the right way, but that's my public statement that I wanted to say is like, I'm sorry that we're at a crossroads, but please look at your role and try to improve it.
Thank you for walking me and the public through that, because it is complicated. And if I could just add one thing, the point isn't that everybody has to agree with your vision of what restoration is, or my vision of where the lake should go, or what LRS wants to do with the lake. I think what we're asking for is, can we do it above board?
Right.
If there's a decision that needs to be made, can we have people come and present? Can the executive director be accountable for what they're doing and what initiatives they're pushing forward? Because we have now seen 3 major things that have been done basically without the knowledge of the commission and now the authority. And that's really troublesome, because we get one chance to get this right. Once you have a housing development or a commercial development on the lake, you can't just take that back. We've got a chance now to create a conservation easement and better public access to the lake and really get some of this science-based restoration moving forward. But there's got to be trust, and there's got to be transparency.
The mistakes that have been made, maybe Mikkel and Deidre Henderson, when they went to run the bill, I don't know why they didn't go to the commission, but maybe it wasn't, they didn't feel like we're the legislature, so we'll make the decision. I'll give them that. Same thing. LRS being appointed, the RFP and getting it for free. Holy cow, if we're going to do that, we probably should make 2 billion off of that 6 billion too. But the thing is if we don't have our government best practices in place, this is where mistakes happen. This is where the misunderstanding happens, and this is where the lawsuits start, and this is where we fall apart. And I'll go back to my founding first meeting that I ever had with Walkara Way. My family's been enwrapped in a lawsuit for over 100 years. I'm putting together a proposal for a compromise meaning my family wouldn't get 100%, that they would get a voice at the table, that we would be able to find compromise and bring all voices, the indigenous voice, the wetland, the hunter's voice, the sailor's voices, anyone that had a voice that could participate in this. And I really believe that the Lake Authority is a good way, but we're not in a good place right now. And I just want to say to the Lake Authority board members, we need you engaged.
Mhm.
We need you asking difficult questions and understanding your role, oversight, and public disclosure, and a few things that I would ask. And I don't think they're that big. Why is a highway going through the proposed Walkara Way plan? I just wanted to know. Why is my city investing $5 million? That's all. I wanted to get to those emails. How did that come about? Who was involved and who authorized it? Those simple grandma documents have been sitting and requesting for over 15 to 18 months by the head of the Lake Authority Board, Julie Fulmer. Maybe she thinks that those can be made private, and maybe it's a misunderstanding in government and in her new role. But if she's going to serve on the Lake Authority Board, I'm asking and petitioning that I need to know those in order to move forward. And I don't think that's a deal breaker. I really don't. I think that's fair to understand why a 215 is coming through when promises were made that a highway wouldn't be here, that it would be conserved wetlands. So anyway, I don't want to rehash everything and I want to be short, but I wish everyone the best of luck, and I'm not going to be giving up, but I wanted to put in my public statement during this time. So thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.